Hello everybody. Today we are going to see one more concept in cloud computing, that is nothing but Azure architecture and features. What is this Azure? Azure is nothing but it is a cloud service which is provided by Microsoft. So we have seen AWS, which is a cloud service which is provided by Amazon. We have seen something called a Google Cloud Platform, which is a cloud service provided by Google. And then this is the last one, Azure, which is provided by something called Microsoft. So in this lecture, we are going to see its architecture and what are its features one by one. So it consists of several layers which serve specific purposes, and they also offer some set of services. We are going to see each layer one by one, what each layer is going to provide and what services they will do. The first layer is physical layer. So physical layer, like we have seen in AWS also we had a physical layer. In Google Cloud Platform also we had physical layer. In Google Cloud Platform we had two components physical layer, but here it is only one component. It is all about physical layer. So it consists of nothing but the servers and the networking equipment whichever are required to connect the servers, and the devices which are going to store our files, videos and applications, whatever we want to store. So these are the servers, and these servers require some premises or place to keep on. Those places are called as data centers. So these data centers are spread across multiple regions in the world, and from here only, from these data centers, all the cloud services are going to be provided. So physical layer consists of nothing but the resources and the location where these resources are available. Next layer is, we have something called networking layer. So networking layer consists of three components: virtual network, VNet, Azure Express Route, and load balancers. So VNet is nothing but it is like VPC. We have seen virtual private cloud in AWS. What is that? It is nothing but subnet which has got different instances available. That subnets can be private or public. So based on the requirement, either they can be made public or private. So in that, routing should be done. So how routing is done? If it is a private subnet, outside internet traffic is not allowed, and if it is public subnet, traffic from inside and outside, both the traffics are allowed. And whenever traffic is coming from outside, network security policies are also required. So these all are provided in this component called VNet. Next, sometimes we have applications running from both the places, from Azure data centers as well as from our premises. So the infrastructure, both the infrastructures are used from there and here. So for this we need to provide connectivity. So this Azure Express Route is nothing but it is a private dedicated connectivity which will connect the data centers and the premises infrastructure, and whatever applications and works are to be done, that are done. So we are not going to use public internet in this because of security and performance reasons. There might be possibility that internet might be down and then performance issues may crop up, and there is a possibility that somebody can hack your data and you can see they can see our data. So for that security and performance reasons, Azure Express Route is used in that case. The last component in this layer is load balancers. This is nothing but whenever we want to network our traffic from the internet to the multiple instances, and we need to use services so that there is high availability and scalability of the services, then load balancing is done. This is what internet traffic is to be maintained. So that traffic is maintained by something called load balancers. So this layer will have these three components which will perform all these tasks. Next we have compute layer. Compute layer is nothing but what all resources are required, how many containers and virtual machines are required, those all is done in this, those all are available in this layer. So it comprises of services for provisioning and managing virtual machines, containers and serverless computing resources. So it involves virtual machines. So to run our applications we need something called VM instances. So here it is provided, infrastructure is required. So infrastructure as a service is done with the help of VMs. Then we have something called Azure Kubernetes service. It helps us to deploy manage our containerized applications, whatever applications we are going to containerize. So those applications can be deployed and managed using this AKS. And whenever scaling is also required, scaling is also done using this component. Next, we have Azure App Service. So it works as a platform as a service. So whenever we want to deploy, deploy any mobile applications or any web applications without any underlying infrastructure, then this Azure App Service will help us to do. Mobile apps can also be built and deployed, and web applications can also be built and deployed. So whenever you want to build an application, this component Azure App Service will help you to do that. Next component, whenever we want to do some activities or some tasks are to be performed based on some triggering activity, then some serverless functions are there. So those are called as Azure functions. In AWS, we have seen something called Lambda functions. What Lambda functions are going to do, the same thing is done by Azure functions over here. So whenever some event is happening, these functions are triggered, and whatever tasks you want to perform, you can perform. As well as these are automatically scaled whenever you want to have more functions, and whenever you want to have more resources on those functions, then this is automatically scaled and done. So this layer will do all these tasks. Next, we have storage layer. So in storage layer, whatever things we want to store, documents, images and videos, that storage can be done. So it has got three components again: Azure Blob Storage, Azure Files and Azure Disk Storage. So in Azure, whenever you want to store some documents, images and videos as an object, then Azure Blob Storage is used. Whenever you want to store some files and you want to run some old applications, legacy applications on VMs and virtual machines, then Azure Files will help you to do. Whenever you want to store some applications and some data persistently, they are not going to perform anything, they are just stored like that, then Azure Disk Storage is used. So it has got HDD service, SSD service and ultra disk service, as we have seen in AWS. So storage layer does all these activities. Next, we have data services layer. So related to database, whenever you want to manage and store and retrieve and process our data, then this layer will help us to do. It has got three components: Azure SQL Database, Azure Cosmos DB and Azure Data Lake Storage. So here, whenever you want to maintain the relational database, then Azure SQL Database will help us. As this data cloud is provided by Microsoft, so generally they are going to use Microsoft SQL Server. So any relational database or any database you want to maintain, you will be using this. Then this service provides high availability, scalability and security. Next, whenever there is no SQL database, document based some database you want to maintain, or you want to have some data to be maintained which should be highly responsive and scalable with some applications with low latency data access, then we are going to something called Azure Cosmos AWS. Like suppose you want to have a big amount of data to store, like big data we want to store on this, we want to do big data analytics and any machine learning things you want to do, wherein you want to have secure data and scalable thing, then you are going to use something called Azure Data Lake Storage. So these three components will do this task. Next. So security layer consists of different components over here. Azure Active Directory is one component, Azure Key Vault is one component, and Azure Security Center. So these three components will provide different types of services. So whenever we want authentication and authorization, which users can have access to which machines and which data, that authentication and authorization will be done in Azure Active Directory thing, which is like identity and access management. Like we have seen IAM in AWS, the same thing is over here. It is done by Azure Active Directory. Next, if I want to store and manage some keys and some secrets and certificates of our cloud applications and services, that can be done as something called Azure Key Vault. Next, whenever we want to have, whenever there is a security threat, or whenever you want to detect the any threats over here and some security management is to be done, then it is done by something called Azure Security Center. So it is nothing but unified security management and threat protection service for Azure resources, providing advanced threat detection and actionable insights. So whenever there is a threat to your data which is available on Azure, of the resources which are available over there, then this Azure Security Center will take care of all those things. So this is about security. Next layer is management and monitoring layer, which is the last layer. So this layer encompasses services for managing, monitoring, and automating Azure resources and workloads. So resources, whatever available are there, those are managed properly, and whatever workload is there, if scaling is to be required, that is done. So here we have three components: Azure Monitor, one component; Azure Resource Manager; and then Azure Automation. So this monitors for Azure resources, applications, and infrastructure, offering metrics, logs, alerts, and insights for performance and available monitoring. So whatever applications which are running on Azure, and whatever resources are available, and whatever infrastructure is available, so those all are monitored by this Azure Monitor component, which will provide some metrics and logs, which through which we can check whether all the resources and applications are working properly or not. So we will get alerts if some threats are there, if some problems are there, we'll get alerts also, and we can see the performance and availability monitoring using this component. Next we have Azure Resource Management for management service for deploying, managing, and organizing Azure resources using declarative templates and APIs. So using APIs, as I said, there are two ways of accessing. There are three ways of accessing resources. One way is API. So this tool will have this service will help us to deploy, manage, and organize our resources using APIs. Next, we have automation service for automating repetitive tasks and workflows in Azure using runbooks, DST configurations, and PowerShell scripts. So some works which are to be done repeatedly, so they are written as scripts, and some configurations are made, and they will run daily. So those all automatic things which should be repeatedly done, those can be done by something called Azure Automation. So these are the different services which are layers and services features of Azure Azure service, Azure which is provided by Microsoft. We can see in this. Thank you.